Thank you for joining us tonight to further your knowledge of our area. Remember that this is an informative forum. In that regard, the Culpeper Times has created a voter's guide that is available in the back of the room. Please pick that up if you would like. Please refrain from any outbursts during the program. If there continues to be disruptions, that person will be asked to leave. In the interest of time, we also ask you to please hold all applause until the end of each session. Please do not applaud after candidate responses. As we are streaming live tonight on Facebook and filming for Culpeper Media Network, please remain seated during the forum. Germanna Community College is mandating masks be worn through the entirety of the program for candidates and attendees. As a reminder, candidates have been informed of topics but did not receive questions beforehand. Candidates, you will receive 2 minutes for your introduction, 2 minutes to answer each question, and 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Our moderator will be keeping time using a green, yellow, and red lighting system obtained from Toastmasters International. The light will turn yellow when you have 30 seconds left and red when time is up. In order to adhere to our timeline for the evening, you'll be cut off at the 2-minute mark. Our moderator for the evening will be Paige Durham. Paige is a Culpeper native. After graduating from CCHS, she attended Shenandoah University and earned a Bachelor of Music Education. Paige returned to Culpeper in 1993 and began teaching music at Culpeper Middle School. She taught in Culpeper for 23 years at CMS and Farmington before transitioning to higher education. Currently, she is the Senior Instructional Designer at Germanna and is also one of the coaches for Germanna's new esports team. There will be a 5-minute break between each session. Thank you again. Ms. Durham, you may take over.
Good evening. We're going to begin with the 2-minute introduction, and I would like to begin with Dr. Douglas Ward. You'll have 2 minutes to do your introduction, and then we'll move on.
Thank you very much. My name is Douglas Ward, or if you've seen my yard signs or ads, it's Dr. Doug. I am a physician, former Peace Corps volunteer, living in Rappahannock County. I have been in private medical practice for 35 years, specializing in the treatment of HIV/AIDS. I've been doing this from the beginning of HIV, really dedicating my life to the medical care of these very difficult patients. I'm now 80% retired. I see patients 1 day a week, and with my now increased free time, I thought getting into politics was a reasonable way to spend my time. I'm running for the House of Delegates because I've seen what's happened in Virginia politics. The Republican Party controlled the legislature for decades. And with the last election, the Democratic Party took control of both houses of the legislature and have just made incredible progress in the number of bills that have been passed, increasing access to medical care, broadband access, civil rights, voting rights, that I think it is very important that we maintain and expand that Democratic majority in the House of Delegates.
Thank you very much. Delegate Freitas, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much to the Chamber for hosting the forum, and to Germanna for hosting as well. It's been my privilege to serve as a delegate for the 30th District for the past 6 years. In that time, we've gotten some great legislation passed, everything from transparency to the Veteran Services Board. We worked on things like career technical education and apprenticeship programs for our students. One of the things I'm concerned about going into this next session is I think that we've seen during COVID some of the strains with respect to our healthcare system. And what I found interesting is that during COVID, we removed a lot of the restrictions that the government had in the way in order to make sure that people had access to healthcare. And I think it's time we remove more of those regulations permanently so we can make it easier for people to have access to healthcare. I also think that a lot of parents are very, very frustrated with respect to what's going on in their school districts right now. And I think we need to be able to have educational opportunities that are every bit as diverse as the student body that we're seeking to serve. And I think we need to keep in mind that it's not the General Assembly and it's not the school boards that are the customers for education. It really is our students. And I think we're going to need to see more choice if we want to make sure that those students get the sort of education that is specifically directed toward their needs. The other thing I'm very concerned about, since we saw the shift with the control of the General Assembly, is I can't tell you how many times I heard nobody wants to take your guns. And then the Democrats took control of the House of Delegates, and they put through legislation that would have criminalized you for owning any number of firearms that are currently legal. But not only that, but a 15-round magazine. One 15-round magazine could have landed you in jail for a year under what they were trying to do. And so I think there has been a significant philosophical shift toward more government intervention and less individual liberty. And so I think we need to return to that, and I look forward to hopefully serving for the next 2 years, once again representing the 30th District. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hyde, 2 minutes, please.
I also want to thank the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce and Germanna Community College for hosting this forum this evening. I'm Annette Hyde, a yoga teacher and living in Madison County. I'm running for the House of Delegates in District 30, which covers most of Culpeper County, all of Madison and Orange counties. I'm a volunteer, an activist, the mother of 2 adult sons, and the wife of a small business owner. I'm running because it's time we have a representative who works for rural Virginians' best interest and, more importantly, believes in the government we are a part of. Rural Virginia matters, and our district needs someone who will fight for what it deserves. I'm a founding member of the Culpeper Madison Orange chapter of Moms Demand Action and was its legislative lead until I decided to seek this seat. I'm a volunteer with the Virginia Department of Health's Medical Reserve Corps. I serve on the Virginia Career Works, Piedmont Workforce Development Board, and on the State Rehabilitation Council for the blind and visually impaired. My family has lived in Virginia for over 30 years. We purchased our home in Madison in 2013 and moved there permanently in 2016. I am looking forward to this evening's discussion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. I will read one at a time, and if you need me to repeat it, please feel free to ask me to do it again. Okay, Annette Hyde, I'm going to start with you. Mental health-related illnesses have been a growing concern for many localities. COVID-19 has not only exacerbated the issue, while we are fortunate to have a community services board that serves our region, we still lack available resources to meet the demand. How will you work to reform the mental health care system and bring much-needed resources to our region?
We can build more and more hospital beds, but what we really need to do is treat mental illness in the beginning by giving our Community Services Board the resources that they need in order to be in the community to help those people in need.
Thank you. Do you need the question repeated?
If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Oh, absolutely, I don't mind. Mental health-related illnesses have been a growing concern for many localities. COVID-19 has only exacerbated the issue. While we are fortunate to have a community services board that serves our region, we still lack available resources to meet the demand. How will you work to reform the mental health care system and bring much-needed resources to our region?
So I think whenever we're talking about trying to increase access while we're also lowering cost and increasing quality, you have to increase supply. There's no way around it. There's no magic button for it. And the way you increase supply, in my opinion, is you don't need more government agencies running this. What you actually need is the funding that we already have allocated going to different organizations which are community-based. And that's not always directly through the Community Services Board, although that is a mechanism. But if you look at some of the institutions that we have through civic organizations within this community that are ready to step up and assist, the idea that we're not going to come alongside and assist those organizations which are invested in the community, understand the unique requirements of the community, and are best suited to be able to help long term. That's one of the issues that we have with a lot of mental health. It's also one of the issues that we have with addiction recovery. We might have short-term facilities, we don't have more long-term. And so we've been working on a number of things that we can do, both to support the local 501c4s that are doing that sort of work, churches, other civic organizations. Another thing that we're looking at with respect is different facilities that can be used. Sometimes we have state facilities that are not being used. We're trying to work in order to get more leasing agreements to be able to use property that already exists in order to be able to fulfill these needs. So I think the more that we can work to empower local organizations that are doing this, the better off. I think the other issue that we want to talk about with respect to mental health, I think is especially unique, or not unique to Virginia, but certainly consideration of Virginia. About 10% of our population is active duty military or veterans. On top of that, we also have a lot of people within the fire department, police work, and whatnot. And what we're noticing is with things like PTSD and other things that are stresses involved with that, one of the things that we can actually do to help with this is you provide the training up front. And a lot of times we've seen this work with firefighters, we've seen it work with law enforcement, with the military. When you're actually teaching people how to go into traumatic situations and you're teaching them to be better operators, more effective, it also gives them the tools that they need to do that emotionally as well. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do up front, and there's a lot of work that we can do with existing groups that, again, are some of them private sector and charitable groups that are truly connected to the community. I think it's going to be the best and most efficient way to get us long-term solutions.
Thank you. Dr. Ward, would you like the question repeated?
No, I can remember it. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to point out, with mental health as compared to any other form of health, having access to care is the primary problem that we need to resolve. A few years ago, Virginia passed Medicaid expansion, which has provided access to medical care, including mental health care, to 540,000 Virginians. And I will point out that Delegate Freitas voted against it. I believe that we need to provide the funding for proper medical and mental health care. Besides just the funding, we need to have the facilities to provide that care. Which include community forums. A lot of this really needs to be done locally to identify and get those patients or those citizens who need help with mental health issues, the care that they require.
Thank you very much. Okay, for the second question, Dr. Ward, we're going to begin with you. Workforce has been the most common talking point for businesses in every sector of our community. What can be done to encourage an influx of talent to meet the needs of our businesses?
Very importantly, yes, we need to provide those with the skills to participate in our business, expanding the Job Corps in Virginia. I feel very strongly that we need to provide the training for our youth to get into those jobs with community colleges, job training, apprenticeships, etc. And these training programs hopefully would be available at no cost to youth to help provide that. Virginia has been ranked the #1 state in the union for job growth, and I think we need to provide the trained workforce to continue that.
Thank you very much. Delegate Freitas, would you like the question again?
No, that's fine. So I think first and foremost we need to understand is that no, we're not #1 in the country for job growth. We're not even close. In fact, we're ranked 49th for new small business startups in Virginia. So I think it's important to understand that if we want a workforce that is going to be able to compete within a 21st century economy, there's certain things that we have to do. First of all, we need to understand that the economy is incredibly diversified and there's new technologies come along that we need to adequately prepare our kids to be able to go into and being competitive in. So one of the ways that you do that is you put emphasis on things like career technical education. This is why I've carried that legislation I've gotten it passed. I've carried apprenticeship program legislation, I've gotten that passed. The more exposure that we can give to students within the career fields and the credentialing that they're going to need so that when they leave high school, regardless of what they decide to do, some occupations are going to require a 4-year degree or more, some of them are going to require a 2-year associate's degree, some of them might require just a credential which we could help provide them when they're actually going to school. The more we can do of that, the better off that we're going to be. The other thing that we need is more occupational licensing reform. Quite frankly, we've made it difficult to do business for certain people in Virginia that we shouldn't. This goes within our teaching profession. It's also gone within our medical professionals as well. I think it is ridiculous that a Special Forces 18 Delta combat medic can go overseas and provide a whole host of medical care while they're over there, and then as soon as they get back here, if you want to pay them to give your kids stitches because they fell and scraped their knee, nope, too bad. That's a criminal activity. So I think we need to start looking at some of the regulations we have in order to ensure that, yes, we obviously want quality, but ultimately we should stop standing in the way that people that have skill sets that want to use them and can use them, and we want to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to work here. Again, I'll go back to the veteran population. Roughly 10% of our population is veteran or active duty. We have one of the highest concentrations of veterans under the age of 40, taking the military skills and the education they've got in the military and helping them transfer that over into commercial skills, and recognizing the training they have is going to provide a significant part of our workforce that we want to see. So the education component is very serious, the occupational licensing reform, and helping people transition out of the military, and otherwise staying out of the way with respect to the regulatory component that we currently have.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hyde, would you like the question again?
Many workers who lost their jobs in 2020 reevaluated their lives and chose different careers with less stress and more pay. Some started their own businesses. Women who would like to re-enter the workforce can't because of the lack of affordable, quality child care or elder care. Many families decided they could live on one income, and some older workers decided to retire. A lot of them have made the decision that it's not worth jeopardizing their physical safety and mental health for poverty wages. The labor markets have to stabilize. We now see it was never the federal unemployment benefits causing the issue, as they have expired. Unfortunately, the government can't wave a wand and make positions be filled. I believe offering higher wages, regular schedules, and reasonable benefits is the answer to reducing the labor shortage.
Thank you. And now you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks. Ms. Hyde, we will begin with you.
No matter your race, economic standing, urban or rural, the General Assembly should be concerned about your ability to thrive and succeed. You've heard where I stand on these issues and how I want to make their lives better. I appreciate the questions from you and the discussion with my fellow candidates. Our Commonwealth was built on rural Virginia, and our voices must be heard. I need your help to make it a reality. We're here because our rural communities deserve a better tomorrow. Join me so I can bring your voices to Richmond and make them heard on every bill that passes before me. My name is Annette Hyde, and I am asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 2nd.
Thank you very much. Delegate Freitas.
Well, once again, thank you very much to the Chamber and Germana for hosting the forum. I appreciate my opponent, Annette, being here as well. Ultimately, there is a very different set of worldviews with respect to what is the proper role of government within our lives. And as I look at the ever-expanding role the government is starting to play within the Commonwealth of Virginia, whether it's essentially micromanaging businesses, whether it's micromanaging our individual decisions, whether it's potentially criminalizing you for owning a firearm, whether it's the stuff that's going on in our schools right now, where we have ideologies that are being taught to our children that a lot of us are uncomfortable with. These are the issues that I think are best solved when we actually leave more decisions in the hands of free people in order to work together when they agree and to leave each other alone when they don't. But unfortunately, we have this mindset that we're going to solve every problem through government force and coercion. Then we end up making the stakes within politics so much higher. And if you want to know why there's so little civility in politics these days, I think that's a lot of what's going on right now, is that we do have an element in Richmond that is currently telling a lot of us, either do what we want you to do or we will punish you. And we're rebelling against that. And quite frankly, we should. And so my goal in Richmond is the same as it has always been for the last 6 years, to do whatever I can to maximize individual liberty, property rights, to protect free markets, to be able to expand educational choice and options, and to ultimately keep the government within its proper constitutional boundaries. There are some things that, quite frankly, are much better left to individuals than a room full of arrogant politicians that think they know what's best for everybody else. That's the way I've voted, that's the way I've legislated for the last 6 years, and that's the way I intend to do it for the next 2. And if that represents your values and beliefs, then I certainly ask for your vote. And either way, I certainly appreciate the opportunity for being able to represent this district for the last 6 years.
Thank you. Dr. Ward.
Thank you, and once again, thanks everyone for showing up on this pretty dreary evening. I believe that the role of government is to provide assistance, protection, rights to its citizens. And that includes providing access to education, to medical care, to infrastructure, including broadband, as well as the typical infrastructure we always speak about. I think the government needs to protect our rights, our voting rights, our civil rights. This year we passed the Equal Rights Amendment. That's a moot point legally because the deadline for ratification is already passed. But symbolically, that says that the government and people of Virginia believe women have equal rights. And I think that's an important role for the government to stand up and let the world know that we are all equal, we have rights, and that's an important role of the government that I believe in.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating in the forum this evening, and we're going to take a brief break, and we will be back in just a few minutes.